The engine ticked under my hood, but Alina Reed still would not step away from my car window. That was the first wrong thing. The afternoon heat pressed over Jasper's driveway like a hand over a mouth. Behind Alina, my best friend stood in the open doorway of his childhood home with barbecue tongs in one hand and the clueless smile of a man who thought the worst thing happening today was overcooked chicken. Alina smiled back at him. Perfectly. That was the second wrong thing. Her hand on my door was shaking. Not enough for Jasper to see. Enough for me to feel the tremor through the metal and into my elbow. "Declan," she said, barely moving her lips. "Keep smiling." I lifted 2 fingers from the steering wheel in a lazy wave. Jasper waved back with the tongs. Alina leaned closer. Her summer dress was plain and light, the kind of thing someone wears to survive a hot suburban afternoon. Nothing about her asked for attention. Everything about her eyes begged me to understand without making Jasper look twice. She reached into her pocket and dropped a small encrypted thumb drive onto my passenger seat. The metal casing hit the leather with a dull, heavy sound. Like a gavel. "Don't open it here," she whispered. I did not touch it. In my work, the object is never the first piece of evidence. The person is Alina Reed, 32, operations director at Halden Logistics, had spent a decade turning broken supply chains into systems that obeyed her. She had the kind of calm authority that made loud men lower their voices without knowing why. When Jasper and I were teenagers and tried to take apart his father's motorcycle engine, she had asked one question. "Do either of you know how to put it back?" We had not. She did. Now her thumb dug into the side of her index finger until the skin blanched. That was her tell. She only did it when she was calculating damage. "Jasper thinks I'm asking about firewall software for his contracting business," she said. "Is he in danger?" Her eyes flicked to the doorway. Jasper had turned to shout something toward the kitchen, still smiling. "Not if you help me before anyone else sees it." There it was. Not weakness. A constraint. She understood the blast radius before I even knew where the bomb was. "What do you need from me right now?" "Leave," she said, slowly, like this was boring. I gave Jasper another lazy wave, let the car roll backward, and pulled away from the curb at neighborhood speed. The engine tick faded behind me. The thumb drive sat on the passenger seat like a live thing. In private intelligence work, encrypted drives usually mean hidden assets, corporate espionage, or a lie someone paid to make believable. The question was not what was on it. The question was why Alina Reed was terrified her brother might find out. My office sat above a closed print shop downtown, 2 locks past legal and 1 lock short of paranoia. No cloud sync, no smart speaker, just isolated machines, write blockers, chain of custody forms, and enough coffee to keep a small agency alive. I photographed the drive before touching it. Logged the time. Generated an evidence I'd connected it through a forensic write blocker. Created a read-only image. Generated a hash. Only then did I open the contents inside an isolated sandbox. The first file was a spreadsheet. The second was a bank transfer summary. The third was worse. A draft board packet with Alina's name beside the word misappropriation. Someone had built a fabricated offshore trail connecting her employee ID to a dummy corporation registered through layers of shell entities. Every high-value freight contract her department touched appeared to bleed a small amount into a ghost account, tiny enough to avoid casual review, consistent enough to look systematic. It was elegant. Too elegant. A real thief hides mess inside noise. This was clean. Clean meant staged. By midnight, I did not have proof yet. I had a pattern, repeated timestamp gaps, copied approval language, and metadata that looked scrubbed by someone who knew exactly which stains to leave behind. I called the emergency number Alina had given me a year ago after Jasper joked that I was basically a human emergency exit. She answered on the first ring. "Tell me," she said. "No pleasantries?" If I wanted pleasantries, I would have called Jasper. He'd ask if you were eating enough. He does that. He learned it from me. I looked at the files glowing on my monitor. "You're being framed." Silence. Not surprise. Confirmation. Marcus Vance, I asked. Her breath shifted. Why him? Because whoever built this has executive access, financial knowledge, and enough confidence to make the evidence look bored with itself. Marcus is vice president of acquisitions, she said. He wants me gone before the transatlantic merger closes. If I'm out, he installs his own operations team and controls vendor routing. What leverage did he give you? He called me in this morning. If I don't sign voluntary severance by Friday, he gives the packet to the board and federal authorities. There was the trap. If she resigned quietly, Vance won the merger. If she fought publicly, the investigation could burn her reputation even if she survived it. What does Jasper have to do with this? The silence was longer. I don't know yet, she said. But one shell company name looks almost exactly like Jasper's contracting business. One letter off. If that becomes public, people won't wait to learn whether he's involved. Now I understood the tremor in her hand. It was not only her career. It was her brother's life being placed near a loaded weapon. Meet me at the coffee shop on 4th, I said. The bad one. The one with terrible lighting? And worse muffins. 10 minutes. The coffee shop on 4th was aggressively forgettable, which made it useful. Bad lighting, loud grinder, sticky tables, no one lingering unless their day had already gone wrong. Alina was in the back booth, facing the door. She had also pushed a black coffee across the table before I sat down. No sugar, a splash of cold water so I could drink it immediately. I looked at the cup. You remembered? You hate waiting for coffee to cool. I hate many things. I made a list. The joke almost worked. Then her eyes dropped to my satchel. What do we do? We build a clean packet, I said. No break-ins, no rogue downloads, no dramatic confrontation. You approve every step that touches your job. Counsel witnesses, anything company side. IT security exports the logs. I preserve evidence, analyze copies, and explain method if needed. You sound like a contract. Contracts survive panic better than promises. Her fingers tightened around her cup. I can't let Jasper know yet. You decide when he knows. And if he's already in the documents? Then we separate appearance from evidence before anyone weaponizes his name. She looked at me then. Not at my job. At me. You believe me. I believe the files are staged. That's not what I asked. I held her gaze. Yes, I said, I believe you. Her shoulders dropped a fraction. A small thing. A human thing. Then she slid a folder across the table. Inside were 3 emails from Marcus Vance. Not threats exactly. Men like Vance rarely write threats. They write opportunities. Alina, a voluntary exit protects everyone. Alina, no one wants authorities involved unless you force us. Alina, your brother would hate to see his company name dragged into this. The last line made my hand go still. There it was. Leverage in writing. Not enough to bury him. Enough to start. Who can authorize a forensic export from your company systems? I asked. Renee Shaw, outside counsel. Owen Pike, IT security lead. Do you trust them? I trust Renee. Owen hates everyone equally, which is as close to trust as IT gets. Good. Call Renee first. Use the word preservation. Alina reached for her phone. Then stopped. What if she thinks I did it? She won't if we give her a cleaner path than suspicion. And if the board sees the packet before we finish? Then Vance gave us the arena. She looked at the coffee between us. You always make danger sound like logistics. That's because panic is usually bad project management. This time, the smile reached her eyes. Only for a second. But it was real. Renee Shaw joined the call 20 minutes later. She had the driest voice I had ever heard and the rare legal habit of not wasting nouns. Mr. Carter, she said, did you access Halden Systems? No. Did Ms. Reed provide company credentials? No. Did you preserve the drive image? Yes. Read-only acquisition through a write blocker, hash generated, chain of custody started. Good. Send the hash report to my secure intake, not the files. I know. I'm making sure I like you. You like process? That accusation has been made before. Alina looked down into her coffee to hide the first real breath she had taken all day. By morning, Renee had opened a privileged internal review. Owen Pike appeared on video with a shaved head, a gray hoodie, and the expression of a man who had never trusted a printer in his life. I don't care who is guilty, Owen said. I care who touched the system. My favorite kind of person, I said. Don't make it weird. We worked under counsel's direction. Alina signed limited authorization for her device and account logs. Owen exported EDR events, VPN sessions, privileged access records, and file revision histories. Renee recorded preservation steps. I analyzed copies, not originals. Every export had a hash. Every handoff had a timestamp. Every guess stayed labeled as a guess until data earned a better name. That was slower than breaking into a building. That was also why it would hold. The first day gave us the false offshore trail. The second gave us a VPN session from Alina's terminal during a time she was in a recorded vendor meeting across town. The third gave us a device certificate attached to that session. Not an IP address. Not a spoofable shrug. A company-issued device certificate tied to an enrolled laptop assigned to Marcus Vance. Owen stared at the log on the call. Well, he said, that's not nothing. Renee corrected him. That is privileged evidence. Owen grunted. Counsel language for not nothing. Alina leaned back in the chair beside me, one hand over her mouth. She did not cry. She did something harder. She stayed. For the next 2 weeks, my office and her townhouse became a map of the frame-up. Not because we were hiding. Because she needed to answer operational questions I could not infer, and Renee wanted everything done under controlled access. The rhythm became strange and quiet. Alina left food near my keyboard without interrupting me. At first, it was practical. Then it became specific. Toast cut in half because I forgot to eat while reading logs. Cold grapes because I drank too much coffee. Once, at 3:40 and a fork wrapped in a napkin because she had noticed I hated touching metal after typing all night. I never thanked her loudly. I moved the plate closer before I started working again. That was how she knew. I left citrus tea on her counter before she woke. I set the mug on the coaster shaped like a shipping container because she always smiled at it and pretended she didn't. I replaced the dead battery in her porch light without mentioning it, then watched her notice at dusk and say nothing because some gratitude is quieter than speech. One night, rain tapped against her windows while we worked through service account logs. I found a picture frame face down on her desk. I had seen the photo before. Jasper, Alina, and me on a camping trip 10 years ago. Jasper grinning like he had invented fire, Alina laughing at something outside the frame, me standing at the edge, uncomfortable in every inch of my own skin. I righted the frame without thinking. Then I realized what I had done. I put it back face down exactly as I found it. Alina saw. From the doorway, she said. You can look at it. I was restoring the scene. No, she said softly. You were avoiding the past. My hand stayed on the frame. There are things a person says that make a room smaller. That was one of them. I spend a lot of time around lies, I said. I know. After a while, old happiness starts looking suspicious. She came in carrying 2 mugs of tea. Set one beside my laptop. Then don't interrogate it, she said. Just let it sit there. I looked at the frame, then left it upright. That night, Owen found the first Jasper clue. A shell company named JPR Stoneworks LLC. Jasper's real company was JPR Stoneworks. 1 space. 1 missing word. Enough to poison a search result. Not enough to be innocent. Alina stood behind my chair and read the entity record twice. Then a third time. He can't see that, she said. Not yet. If Jasper sees his company name in a federal packet, he'll think he ruined my life. He didn't. He won't hear that first. I turned in my chair. What do you want? I want him protected until we can prove it was bait. That's your call. Her eyes searched mine, expecting argument. I gave her none. If it stays out of the main board packet, I said, we still preserve it separately. Renee must know. Renee can know. Owen can know. You can know. She swallowed. Jasper can't. Not yet. Then we isolate that folder? For the first time in 2 weeks, she touched my wrist. Not romantic. Not careless. A grounding point. Thank you. I looked down at her hand, then back to the screen. Don't thank me for following instructions. I'm thanking you for not taking them away from me. That sentence stayed with me long after she left the room. The frame-up accelerated on a Tuesday morning. I was reviewing service account logs when a red alert appeared on Owen's secure dashboard. Board_packet_upload. Priority review. Alina was in the kitchen. I heard the mug touch the counter too hard. What happened? Vance moved early. She came into the room, face already pale. He uploaded the fabricated packet to the board. Yes, emergency review tomorrow at 9. For 1 second, she looked younger than Jasper. Not weak. Just stripped of the armor she usually wore so well. He's going to fire me in front of everyone. No, I said. She looked at me. He handed us a formal record. That sounds like something you say when things are on fire. Because fire creates light. Her laugh broke in the middle. Renee joined by video. Owen joined from the Security Operations Center with 3 monitors glowing behind him and a half-eaten granola bar in his hand. Renee read the summary without blinking. Can this be presented tomorrow? Yes, I said. If we keep the Jasper folder separate and Alina leads. Alina looked at me sharply. You don't present? I explained method when asked. You are the executive being framed. You decide what gets entered. You ask for counsel recognition. You protect Jasper. I support. Owen pointed at his camera with the granola bar. That is the first smart sentence anyone has said today. Renee said, the bar is low. Alina pressed both hands flat on the table. No trembling. What do we have? I turned the report toward her. False offshore trail. VPN session from your terminal while you were elsewhere. Device certificate tied to Vance's enrolled laptop. Temporary file cache showing first draft under his user profile. Service account used to plant the packet. And a shell company name designed to implicate Jasper if anyone searched loosely. Her eyes stopped on Jasper's name. Can we prove he wasn't involved? Owen lifted one hand. No financial activity, no login, no vendor tie, no shared device, no communications. Jasper Reed is clean. Alina exhaled. Not relief yet. The first shape of it. The next morning, the corporate tower smelled like polished stone and expensive coffee. I carried the steel case. Alina carried the board packet. That mattered. At the elevator, Jasper stepped out wearing work boots, a contractor badge, and the confused expression of a man who had accidentally wandered into a room with better carpets than expected. Deck, he said. Alina, why are you two dressed like somebody died? Alina went still. The folder in her hand shifted half an inch toward her body. Jasper looked from her face to my case. Then back to her. Seriously, what's going on? I prepared the boring lie. Routine compliance review, vendor encryption issue, nothing to worry about. Alina touched my wrist. Cold fingers. Clear signal. Stop. She glanced toward the boardroom doors, where Marcus Vance stood behind glass beside the chairman, already projecting a slide with her name on it. Then she looked down at the thin sealed folder inside my case. The Jasper folder. She leaned close enough that only I could hear. He can't know about this, she whispered. Not until his name is safe. There it was. The title line. Not a secret romance. Not a tease. A sister protecting her brother from a weapon built out of his innocence. I nodded once. I removed the thin folder from the main stack and slid it into the interior pocket of my jacket. Alina turned to Jasper. It's a board issue, she said. I can't explain it right now. Jasper's smile disappeared. Are you okay? No, she said. The honesty hit him harder than a lie would have. But I will be, she added. Wait for me downstairs, please, and don't call Mom. Jasper looked at me. Declan, I'm with her. He studied my face, looking for the part of me that had been his friend since we were 13. Whatever he saw was enough. Okay, he said, but if nobody tells me something by lunch, I'm becoming everyone's problem. That sounds fair, Alina said. He stepped into the elevator. The doors closed. Alina watched until the numbers began dropping. Then she straightened her shoulders. Now, she said, we end this cleanly. We entered the boardroom. 12 directors sat around a long table. Chairman Lowell Grant occupied the far end, silver-haired, narrow-eyed, and already irritated. Renee Shaw sat along the wall with a legal pad. Owen Pike stood near the screen with a company laptop and the dead expression of IT personnel forced into executive theater. Marcus Vance stood at the front. His suit was perfect. His smile was patient. Men like Vance never look evil when they think the system is theirs. Ms. Reed, Chairman Grant said, this is a closed executive session. I know, Alina said. Her voice did not shake. I also know the packet on your screen accuses me of routing company funds through offshore accounts. Before any employment action is discussed, I am entering a privileged forensic response through outside counsel. Vance laughed once. Small. Dismissive. This is a delay tactic. Alina did not look at him. She looked at the chairman. Renee Shaw opened a preservation review yesterday. Owen Pike exported the logs under counsel direction. Declan Carter performed independent forensic analysis on copies, not originals. Every file has a hash. Every handoff has a timestamp. If the board wants truth more than theater, let the record start there. The room quieted. Renee spoke without standing. I confirm the preservation process. Owen said, I confirm the exports. Chairman Grant leaned back. Proceed. Alina placed the first report on the table. The offshore trail is fabricated, she said. The first visible layer points to my employee ID. The deeper logs do not. Vance folded his arms. I watched his right thumb tap twice against his cuff. Nervous. Hidden badly. Alina continued. The packet was planted from a VPN session that appears to come from my terminal, but at that exact time, I was in a recorded vendor negotiation across town. Owen clicked the screen. Timestamp, video record, VPN session. Alina turned one page. The VPN session used a company-issued device certificate. Owen traced that certificate to a laptop and rolled to Marcus Vance. The room shifted. Vance's smile thinned. That is misleading. Device certificates can be retired, reassigned, or compromised, Alina said, which is why I'm not stopping there. She looked at me. Not for rescue. For method? I stepped forward only as far as the screen. The temporary cache on the planted packet shows an earlier draft generated under Mr. Vance's user profile. The service account used to move it into the board drive was accessed from that same enrolled laptop. The chain does not rely on one IP, one metadata field, or one assumption. Renee added, and because counsel witnessed the export, the board can act without contaminating the investigation. Chairman Grant opened the bound packet. His face changed slowly. Not shock. Calculation. Vance stepped toward the table. This is absurd. She hired her brother's friend to manufacture a defense. Alina finally looked at him. No, I hired an investigator so you couldn't manufacture my guilt. Silence. Then she turned to the chairman. There is one more folder, she said. It involves an attempted shell company mimic of Jasper Reed's contracting business. I am not entering it into the main board packet until counsel confirms it cannot be used to imply his involvement. I am disclosing its existence because withholding it entirely would be wrong. I am restricting its circulation because it was designed to smear an uninvolved third party. Renee nodded. Counsel agrees with that handling. Owen lifted a second report. No financial activity, no login, no vendor tie, no communications. Jasper Reed is clean. Alina's fingers relaxed on the edge of the table. Only then did I realize she had been holding the wood hard enough to pale her knuckles. Chairman Grant closed the packet. "Mr. Vance," he said, voice flat, "step away from the table." Vance stared at him. "Lowell, you can't seriously—" I said, "Step away." Security entered. "Not armed theater." Corporate security, HR, and counsel. "Process." Vance looked at Alina one last time. "You think this makes you safe?" She did not flinch. "No," she said. "It makes me documented." That was the line that ended him. Vance was escorted to a separate conference room. His access was suspended. His laptop was seized under corporate policy. The board rescinded the emergency termination review before lunch. Renee notified federal counsel. Owen locked down every service account Vance had touched. It was not dramatic. It was better. It was clean. When the room emptied, Chairman Grant remained seated with the report in front of him. "Ms. Reed," he said, "the board owes you an apology." "Yes," she said. He blinked. She did not soften it for him. "And operational control over the merger review," she added, "because the fact that this almost worked means our internal approval system is weaker than I warned it was." For the first time all morning, I almost smiled. Grant looked at Renee. Renee looked back with the expression of a lawyer watching a client finally say the expensive thing out loud. Grant nodded. "Granted pending formal vote." Alina gathered her papers. She did not look at me until we reached the hallway. Then she stopped. The glass elevator doors were visible at the far end. Jasper stood beside them, arms crossed, face pale with contained panic. Alina looked at me. "Stay," she said. I did. She walked to her brother. He opened his mouth. She held up one hand. "I'm safe. My job is safe. Your company is safe. Someone tried to use your name as bait, and we stopped it before it touched you." Jasper stared at her. Then at me. Then back at her. "You couldn't tell me?" "Not until I could prove you were clean." "I would have believed you." "I know," she said. "That's why I had to protect you from believing the wrong thing about yourself." Jasper's face broke a little. He pulled her into a hug. She stood stiff for half a second, then held him back. I looked away. Some things do not need witnesses, even when you are paid to be one. The fallout took weeks, not minutes. Vance was suspended, then terminated. The internal report went to federal authorities. The merger survived because the board could show a clean response instead of a cover-up. Alina was cleared, then promoted into full merger operations authority. Owen rebuilt access controls and complained every day while doing excellent work. Renee sent emails so precise they probably made printers nervous. My role ended cleanly. That mattered. No hidden leverage. No crisis dependency. No reason for anyone to say, "Alina chose me because the room was burning." On the final day, I packed my equipment in her townhouse office. The picture frame sat upright now. Jasper, Alina, and me on that old camping trip. I was still at the edge of the frame, but not as far as I remembered. Alina appeared in the doorway with 2 mugs. "Citrus tea," she said. "For you?" "For both of us. I'm expanding your personality." "That sounds invasive." "You'll survive." She set one mug beside my case, then reached into her pocket and placed a small brass key on the desk. Hers. "My front door," she said. I looked at it, then at her. "The case is closed." "I know. I don't need access." "I know." "Then why give it to me?" She stepped closer, but left space. Because she understood me now. Because choice needed room. "Because I want you to use the front door," she said. "No emergencies, no hidden routes, no pretending you're only here because something went wrong." My throat tightened. I looked at the key. Then at the picture frame. Then back at her. I spent years thinking distance kept people honest. Did it? "No," I said. "It just kept me lonely with cleaner paperwork." Her mouth curved. "Sounds inefficient." "Very." I picked up the key. It warmed quickly in my palm. I should tell Jasper. I already did. I froze. She smiled wider. He said if you hurt me, he'll bury you under a patio. That is brand consistent. He also said you're the only person he trusts to make sure the patio is level. I laughed. A real one. She watched it like she'd been waiting for that sound longer than either of us wanted to admit. 4 months later, the engine ticked under my hood in Jasper's driveway again. The sound was the same. Everything else had changed. Jasper's backyard was loud with neighbors, smoke from the grill, kids racing through the grass, and the comfortable chaos of a Sunday barbecue. I sat in the car for 1 second after parking, listening to the cooling metal ping in the autumn air. The first time I heard that sound here, Alina had been shaking beside my window. This time, she opened the front door before I reached the walkway. She wore an oversized cream sweater, hair pulled back badly on one side, the kind of imperfect detail I had learned to trust more than polish. She crossed the yard in front of Jasper, her colleagues, half the neighborhood, and 3 people who absolutely noticed everything. Then she took my hand. No hesitation. No secrecy. "Declan," she said, loud enough for Jasper to hear. "You're late. I had to secure the perimeter at the bakery. You bought pastries." Hostile crowd. Of grandmothers? They had elbows. She laughed, and the sound loosened something in me I had not known was still locked. Jasper pointed the tongs at us. "I knew it," he shouted. "You knew nothing," Alina called back. I knew emotionally. "That is not evidence," I said. Jasper grinned. "It is in this family." Alina squeezed my hand. Then she led me through the front door. Not the side gate. Not the service entrance. The front door. The key she had given me was already on my ring, but she opened the door herself and looked back at me. "Next time," she said, "you use yours." I stepped across the threshold. Behind me, the engine stopped ticking. For once, the silence did not feel like a warning. It felt like permission. The end. Closing thoughts. Core lesson. Real trust is built when truth is protected cleanly, not hidden carelessly, and when the people we love are allowed to choose what happens next. Green flag. Healthy love does not take control during crisis. It respects boundaries, protects dignity, and stays steady even after the danger is gone. Please like and subscribe so we can share more stories like this.